So you're a bit of a revival junkie.
Yeah, can't help it. I'm addicted.
And when you like to go places like America, it's not Disney World you want to go to, you like to go to revival hotspots.
I do.
So tell us
absolutely.
about one of those. You actually went this year.
Yeah, I went to Bonnie Brae Street that I've been to a few times before. But Bonnie Brae Street is in downtown LA.
Right.
And it's where the Azusa Street revival actually broke out.
Okay, because many people have heard of the Azusa Street revival, but it actually started a little bit before that in Bonnie Brae Street.
It did, in a home on Bonnie Brae Street. And the story is that so many people were gathering on this street and on the veranda of this house to hear what was going on, that the veranda collapsed under the weight of all the people.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a bit of a wow. Yeah. And I think that was the catalyst that caused them to go to Azusa Street.
Yeah, okay.
But Bonnie Brae Street was the actual place where the whole move of God began.
Yeah.
And what a move of God it was.
Yeah. So who did that start with? Who was the...
William Seymour.
Right.
Yeah, William Seymour was the guy whom the Lord used to head that up.
Yeah.
I mean, there were other great names in there as well as intercessors, and but he was the guy that actually did the communicating and so forth. And so it was just, it's wonderful to go there because, you know, I don't know if there's deep theology about residual anointings, but when you go to this place, for me, you know that you've walked into the presence of God.
Wow.
And every time I go there, I sense powerful presence of the Lord. So of course I go there pretty often.
So describe the place. Is it a big house,
no,
little
it's
house?
just a very little humble house. They've now kept it for, you know, as heritage value.
Right. Yeah.
It's just a little place. It's got the piano from which someone sat who couldn't play music and started playing. I think it's got Catherine Kuhlman's pulpit.
Oh, really?
Yeah, some of those kind of interesting things that have been part of a move of God in America. But you know, I've learned something there, Sharon. I've learned that that we have faculties in the spirit, the same as we do in the natural. You know, like in the natural, we hear, we can taste, we can touch, we can smell, we can see. And we don't realise that we have those same faculties in the spirit. Like when David inquired of the Lord and said, "Will I go up against the Philistines?" Yeah. And God spoke to him and said, "Wait until you hear the sound of marching in the tops of the mulberry trees."
Wow.
I'm like, who hears marching in the top of a mulberry tree?
How do you do that?
Hello. Obviously, it's the angel armies.
Yeah.
And God's saying, just wait. So he's hearing in the spirit.
Yeah.
And Elisha's young man, who was the offsider to Elisha, he was frightened because he sees the armies of the enemy gathered around about them. Yeah. But Elisha prays, and he says, "Open the young man's eyes." And so Gehazi's eyes are opened, and he sees the hosts of heaven encamped about.
He's seeing in the spiritual realm.
Seeing, because it's a faculty that we have, and we can cultivate it. So taste and see that the Lord is good. Yeah. You know, there's the smelling, the perfume of the presence of the Lord. These are, and we often feel, or we say, "The Lord touched me."
Yeah.
You know, so we use terms that are actually present in our faculties in the natural, and they're there even much more acutely in the spirit.
So you're in Bonnie Brae Street in this little house.
Yep.
You got a tour guide. The tour's happening.
Yep.
What
this
happened?
is just a few months ago.
Yeah.
So I'm lying in the floor in the living room on the floor in Bonnie Brae Street, and all the other noises just fade away. And I begin to hear a sound that I could not identify and I'd never heard before. And so I'm asking the Lord, what is this sound that I'm hearing? So I'm just listening and waiting for the Lord to speak. And the Lord said to me, "This is the sound of humility."
Humility.
Humility.
Wow.
How do you hear humility?
Yeah.
How do you hear the sound of marching in the top of a mulberry tree?
That's right.
And what is this sound of humility? Well, I've pondered on that for a long time, but, you know, I believe it was the sound that caused the revival to actually start in that place.
So in a place where there was such revival, and anywhere that there's revival, would you say that humility is a major key in revival?
I think it's the key.
Yeah.
I mean, there are other factors, but if there's humility there and we can hear what the Lord is saying and hear what others are saying, then the Lord can land on that. He needs somewhere to land, and He can land on humility. And that was a sound that I'll never forget.
So powerful.
It was wonderfully powerful. God's great. God's great.
Amen.